Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings on your Tuesday. How you doing? It's your friend Dave back for yet another day of New Mercy Mornings. Hope you're doing well. We will break in from time to time throughout the morning, give you a couple tidbits of information, a little fun facts here and there, and, tell a story or two, talk about the Lord. You never know what's going to show up here on New Mercy Mornings. If you miss any of it through the morning, fear not. There is the Encore version on the Facebook group page where you can just play the audio portion of everything that happens here on New Mercy Morning, so you won't miss a darn thing throughout the day. Or if you want to hang out with us late at night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern or midnight Eastern, the full replay of all New Mercy Morning happenings. So let's get busy through the day here, and we'll be in touch throughout the morning. New Mercy Mornings, 6 minutes past the hour. On your Tuesday, I'm Dave. Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, 10 minutes to the hour. And so the other day, I had to do business in something that people, I guess, maybe call like a devil's sort of den. Who knows? I don't know. I had to go to the casino, and my wife has been funny about this trip since I had to tell her about it. Okay, since I found out about it, and she's like, and forgetting the fact I had to do business, she just kept asking, "So you're going to the casino? So this is a casino trip? What about this casino thing?" Everything came down to the fact that it was at the casino. So she thought it was like going to be a giant day of, food and gambling and madness and whatever. It's like, no, I want to do what I got to do, and I want to go home. Okay, it was going to be a Friday afternoon. It was hot. I wanted to get home. I had yard work to do. I wanted to get to that as early as I could because there were storms coming. And all she kept saying was, "So what about this casino trip?" Now, there's a reason for this, okay? The casino makes her nervous. And the reason it makes her nervous is that long time ago, when I was very young, when I was a wee lad, I loved gambling. I was crazy about gambling. I thought gambling was like the coolest, greatest thing. You were cool if you were gambling. Gambling was a sport for people who really probably weren't good at sports. Because you could follow the sports, know about the sports, do everything, be knowledgeable or whatever. But you didn't have to. It could be other things, lotteries or slot machines, I guess. I don't know. I never encountered a slot machine when I was a young kid, but lottery, certainly I did. Found a way to get lottery tickets, scratch tickets, found adults to buy regular tickets for me, sure. And then there was the beloved harness racing, which became a thing for me. Thanks to, waiting up to watch professional wrestling at night, they had an hour of harness racing that I learned a whole lot about gambling on. And of course, then there was, once I learned how to do that, and I showed my older brother about, how good I was getting at this, because I started to keep a log of how that was going and everything. And seeing that if I had actually bet, I would have done quite well. So he said, "You want to do this for real?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." He goes, "All right." He says, "Go to the janitor's office at school," he says, "and ask for Jack." Now, my brother was always in on the underworld of everything, okay? To this day, he still knows. Everything to my brother has an underworld to it, and my brother knows the underworld, and so he knew Jack, and so I went down to the janitor's office and met, and I'm going to keep this part of it real short. I met Jack the janitor, who basically gave me far better education than I ever got from any teacher in that school. Okay? I learned more about more things from the janitor who taught me how to gamble on harness racing. And you know, he liked regular horse racing, but same bookie, handles them all. And he had one of those, and you know, like I said, I'll keep this part of the story short. But I'll go back to the casino. So I'm in the casino the other day, and I've been there a few times in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years or so. Maybe I can count on one hand how many times I've been there for various shows or meals or whatever, with only a marginal thing to do. In fact, in all the times I've walked by and through the casino, I played exactly one slot machine. One time, one bet. Won $75, took my money, walked away, never looked back at the machines. Paid for our dinner that night there or whatever. That made me happy. And thanked God for that. And, you know, I left it saying, yep, I'm 1,000% on that game, and I will never touch any of that ever again. And this had been, I hadn't gambled on anything in years, okay? The crazy thing about it is, as much as I was in love with it, when I got to know the Lord and understood he wasn't crazy about that sort of thing, although there's little mentions of gambling here and there and people playing games, casting lots, as they'd like to say, or whatever. You know, I had no interest in it anymore. I could walk by those machines and they mean nothing to me. And yet, as a youngin', I was totally enamored by the thought of gambling. I thought you were the coolest cat if you gambled. I thought that made, you know, it gave me like a purpose at one point in my life. But there is nothing more unenticing, more unexciting than slot machines at a casino. I have no interest in it. They're like, you know, I remember back in the day, you pulled an arm and it was a big, you know, you were waiting on it. There's very little anticipation. You hit a button, it's all electronic. And I'm like, where's the thrill in this? What did you ever see in this sort of thing? And so when I think about the temptations that we used to have before we knew the Lord, and we just walk by them today and don't think anything of them, isn't that just give you the warmest feeling inside? To the alcoholic who can walk by the bar or the liquor store, or as we say in Connecticut, the package store. To the drug addict who sees people in his former life and, you know, he just prays for him and moves on, you know. The people who, you know, committed other sins and are tempted to do them again and again, and the devil is just throwing them in our path, and yet we can walk by them confidently, or maybe even not confidently, but we can walk by them and say, you know, that's our Lord. But I mean, in the casino, I mean, there was gambling all around me. It's like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't an addiction. Who knows? Maybe it was. I'm not sure. I could surely have gotten enticed into that life. I know that. But you just to breeze on by and just laugh and smile at it, you know, knowing I've got a better. I want a better bet. I bet on Jesus, and you know, I'll collect my winnings when he says it's time. And, you know, pray today over temptation, okay? Temptation is still there. But for everybody, But isn't it just a beautiful thing when the things that were temptation at one time, that the Lord is so deep inside you now that they're no longer really temptation anymore? Isn't that the best? Amen. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, Tuesday. It is now almost top of the hour. Double Pop Worship Zone, 35 after the hour on your Tuesday. You know, I wanted to talk about a former employer who passed away last month. I just found out the other day that gentleman who got me started in the world of Subway years ago. Subway was a big thing with me way back in the day. They were a big factor in my life, and Paul is one of the people who he was one of my first employers in it. In fact, the only boss I ever had in it, really. Him and his partner. My relationship with Subway starts in a very odd way. It starts with a ticket stub from a New Haven Nighthawks game, a minor league hockey game. I'm probably saying 1974, 5 maybe, somewhere in there. And it had a coupon on the ticket stub for, I don't know, 25 cents off of some nominal amount off of a hot pastrami sandwich that they used to have back in the day. Hot pastrami used to be a big thing on the Subway menu years ago. And I don't think I had ever really had one to that point, but it sure sounded good. And so I went, I knew we had a Subway in town, and I went down there with my ticket stub and saw that it was usable there. And I got a hot pastrami, and, I remember I used to get lettuce, green peppers, and oil and vinegar on it. And it was absolutely amazing. And the ladies who I used to go in the morning sometimes, when I was a kid, on weeks off or whatever. And the ladies who worked there were Paul's mother and aunt in the morning. And they were absolutely delightful. I, grew to know them a little bit. She told me, they would say that, their son and nephew, was the owner. And when I got working age, I'd been working since I was 9 years old, but when I got, to the age where you could work in a food place, 16 or 17, I tried one job, didn't work out too good, but I went there, and I always thought, what a cool place that would be to work. I mean, I liked Subway. I liked those ladies. It looked really relaxed. They played, top 40 music in the place and, whatnot. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'd like to see how this plays out. So I asked the mother and aunt, hey, are they looking, for help? She says, they always kind of are, right? And so she called upstairs and got her son down, and probably within about 15 minutes, I had a job there. And Paul, was a gentleman's name, who turned out to be, he turned out to be like a big brother to me in a way. I would say, like a big brother. Paul was like smart, one of the smartest people I ever met. Knowing about business and everything, even at a young age. He was only about 27 at the time, 28. He was very bright. And he always looked a little haggard and whatever, but he was always so calm and laid back, and had a presence to him that he was always like the calm in the storm. You know, he always was the you know, bastion of stability in the middle of chaos. And I wanted him in my life. I wanted what he knew. I wanted what he was like. I was crazy. I was hyper. I was, you know, I had a lot of, you know, my head was just full of nutty ideas and whatever. I was just a strange character. And Paul, I'm not going to say he embraced it, but he would come in situations with me and say, Dave, what are you doing? You know, Dave, how come? You know, what's going on? You know, he would always be the one I could talk to, and he could set things in the right direction. I always had like a respect for him. I was a little afraid of him at times, I guess. You know, but I was very respectful of him. His partner was as nuts as I was, if not more. And maybe that was why he knew how to handle people like that. But when Paul showed up in our situations with all the workers there, everything came to a stop. He chilled the world out. He chilled everybody out. He was as dry and laid back. Could be funny if he had to be. He had a sense of humor about him. But he was like one of those people who, you know, they came in and were put the calm, the chill in your life, you know. And I needed somebody like that so bad, and Paul could often be it. And so, even sometimes like things like accounting homework and stuff like that, I could go to him with it and say, you know, where am I going wrong here or whatever. And it would be like the last thing he would expect me to do was to say to him, you know, because he just kind of thought I was a crackpot at times. But I'd bring that up. I'd say to him, what am I doing wrong? And he'd say, you know, this is where you made your mistake, whatever. And he would show me. He was always so bright. And he always had the sense about him that everybody else seemed to lack at the time. And I remember at one point, once I got a few years into this with them working the counters in the stores and everything, one day he says to me, hey, come visit me. He called me up. He said, come visit me upstairs. He goes, I just wanted to see what you were up to. And so I went up there to the office and whatever that was above the place. And he, you know, started to talk to me about possibly, you know, working in the office with them a few hours a week. And he said, I'd like to, you know, see if, you know, if you get the hang of this. He said, of what we're doing up here and everything. He goes, you have the smarts for the business. He goes, maybe you could be helpful to us up here. And so I got very excited because he started to see the potential in me. And I was like, you know, this is what I needed, that confidence from somebody, you know, somebody like him, and somebody that I respected as much as him. And you know, we did do that shift a few times up there and whatever. He had to, you know, times cut it back for financial reasons, but I continued to work in the stores with him, you know, for them and everything. And eventually when I became a franchisee, he was very instrumental in helping me, you know, learn a lot of things, that to the point that when I took the franchise class, I finished first. And I always say that was Paul. It wasn't all me, it was Paul. And I remember going to my parents after the time he had me working upstairs with him, though, and you know, my parents were getting into an argument with me about one thing or another, and I said to them, well, you know, in a couple, you know, next year I'm going to be working up there maybe full time with Paul, and they were like, up where? And I'm like, upstairs in the office. That's what he's talking about. He's like, he doesn't want you. And it was like, well, he just told me he did and does. And, you know, I remembered that. And, you know, time went and passed and drifted away. And I never really, I think the examples I learned from him about calm in situations, about how to be the right person at the right time for people. I came into my wife's life in the middle of chaos. Her boys knew only a chaotic life. I came in and it all stopped. And I said, you know, and I never really saw myself that way, but I think I learned that example from him, from Paul. And then as years went on, like even in, you know, my current job and everything that I've done a long time, many times I can be the stopgap in crazy situations too. And I learned a lot. And granted, you know, you get older, you get wiser, you get calmer, you hope so. And, you know, I think I learned how to bring calm into instability largely from watching Paul do it. And, you know, through the years, and it's been many years since I've seen him, I kept saying to myself, I'd like to see him. Because I want him to see that everything turned out okay. And I know as a child of God, I don't have to impress any single human being. I don't. I know I don't. But I wanted him to see something. That I landed on my feet. Things turned out good. I have a stable life. I've been a healthcare provider for over 3 decades. I've had a stable marriage for 3.5 decades. I really would have loved to come in and probably gave him an acid trip like I do with a lot of people. I mean, I was pretty crazy. Just a goofy, you know. I mean, I'm sure you get wind of it the way I act sometimes out here, but, you know, there's a lot of people I see from back in the day who see me now and whatever, and they're like, is that really Dave? They're like, are you kidding? It's like, did I take a hit of acid? What's going on? You know, people change. And, you know, being a good influence on somebody's life makes that kind of difference. And I wanted him to see what an influence he was on mine. And, well, I'll never get that chance. Was one of those things I just kept saying, you know, I got to find a way to go see him, find a way to surprise him, get together with him. I can't do that now. But, you know, maybe I'll tell his family or something what an influence he was to me, what he always meant to me, even if I didn't see him through the years. I swear to this day, he was a very important person in my life. And rest in peace, Paul. Double Pop Worship Zone. I'm Dave. Tuesday morning, 15 after, Double Pop Worship Zone. New Mercy Mornings. You know, I let you know that I am working on a new website for us. I hope it'll be much simpler, one I can update anywhere I go. I'm happy about it. Didn't cost us anything. Looks like looks like I'm pointed and moving in the right direction on that. Praise God. I told you guys that I would work on something for that. We're going to try to keep it more compact there, still be able to have the station on there that you just visit that one site, get the station, podcast, New Mercy Mornings. Hopefully all that'll be on there. Anybody who wants to contribute with a podcast, hint, hint. Also, further hint, hint. I am interested in, if somebody wants to do something similar to what I'm doing in the mornings, in the afternoon, can walk you through that. You want to do it as an evening thing. You want to do it as an overnight thing, couple hours here and there. I'll show you how to do it and make it pretty easy on yourself. Let me know, and I'd be glad to plug you in. Help us increase the listeners. Anybody, share the station. If you're contributing songs, share the station. We've added new music over the weekend. New people, share the station. We need listeners. That's the idea. We want everybody to hear your songs. We want everybody to be praising God through the songs that you're putting on here every single day. That's why we do this, to bring people to the Lord through your songs. And as frustrating as I've mentioned a few times, it's like, people are on, you say, there's not a lot of people listening. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing, it's like we've talked about before. It's about reaching, maybe that one person. Maybe it's about, finding, that one person who the Lord hasn't left and forsaken. And we're going to use us to remind them of that. I was passing through some scripture just as I was a little frustrated about it. It was one of those things that was like, okay, maybe the Lord is trying to scream a little something here. It was in Acts 18, verse 9. During the night, Paul had a vision. The Lord had said to him, "Don't be afraid and don't stop talking to people. I am with you, and no one will be able to hurt you. Many of my people are in this city." And when I think of the city, I think of in this listenership, that city, okay? Paul stayed there for 1.5 years teaching God's message to the people. So maybe this was him just saying, don't stop talking. Don't stop doing this. Don't stop moving this in the direction that it's going. Use your voice. Use your words for something good, as my song goes. And he's trying to say this, don't stop. And so, I'm not stopping. There's numerous ways people are hearing what we're doing. I want them to hear your songs. I want people to come to the station and hear these beautiful, beautiful songs that you guys are writing. Because that's what's going to reach the people, that brings them to the Lord, is those songs. Maybe it's something I say. Maybe it's something, in somebody else's words. Who knows? It's not for us to say. But I'm going to keep going, just like this said. And I invite you to help me out. If you want to help, I'm calling out to you. And, be a part of the victory here, too. Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, Tuesday. Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings. About 15 after the hour. Going to keep this segment short. We've had 2 long segments this morning, and so, we're going to keep this one short. I just wanted to pass on this. Today in 1981, President Reagan awards the Congressional Gold Medal to Ken Taylor, Canada's former ambassador to Iran. My mouth will work eventually. For helping 6 Americans escape from Iran during the hostage crisis of 1979 to 81. He is the first foreign citizen bestowed the honor. It's a big thing. When we talk about Canada and the United States, the relations, we sit there and we just people roll our eyes in the U.S. Canada is still the best friend the U.S. ever had. And we forget that sometimes. And we forget the Iran thing. Canada saved those people in Iran. They did. They were instrumental in that whole process that pretty much changed our government in the way things went. How helpful they were by hiding the hostages in the Canadian embassy and helping some get out before they were taken. An incredible story. There's a few movies about it, and people really, you know, I love Canada and I love Canadians. Okay, they're just lovely people. That's why we go there and visit. But yeah, they got their ways. They're not, they're not. I wouldn't live. I don't know if I live there only because I'm not sure if I like how the government is run. But go and go and see anything about the Iranian hostage crisis and Canada's role in that. And if you don't know the story, you will definitely be amazed. And it's very heartwarming to know we have a good sibling to our north. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings on Tuesday. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings. It is about 15 after the hour on your Tuesday. So, yeah, a friend of mine's mom passed last week, and remember the process of ordering like flowers for things. First of all, people have started saying, in lieu of flowers, make a donation to whatever. Okay, I didn't see that she had asked that, so I just I had sent flowers when her dad passed, and so I figured I'd send flowers when her mom passed. Which is fine. Flowers. I don't know. They're nice. I mean, you can. Somebody sends you flowers when someone passes away. I think that's still a warm wish. I know it's a, new day and age where people don't do that. But remember, you used to have to go drive. There was you could go drive down to the flower shop and you had to pick that, and then they had to wire the order across the country to another flower place who would make it up and whatever. Well, now, you could just, there's like a text app or something like that where you could just hit things like, here's what I got to spend. This is the address. Give them something new, it's a funeral. Give them something good, it's a funeral. And they do it. Now, that's not what I did, okay? And I mean, I made it a little more personal than that. However, you can do that now, and it makes it easy. It makes it easier, and pick out something nice for this and send, and they'll do it. One time, though, many years ago, on a whim, my wife decided to send me flowers for something. And I don't know why. I didn't want the darn flowers, okay? But she wanted this. I forgot what had happened. I don't know, some sort of, I think it was a celebration of some kind. I don't know. Anyway, she sends these flowers. Her and my ex-daughter-in-law picked out something or whatever. Turns out what showed up wasn't what they ordered or something, and then next thing you know, there's a whole big row, and I didn't care. It was no big deal, but they were all sorts of bent out of shape. Anyway, they called the place up to complain, and all of a sudden, I wish I was making the story up, okay? All of a sudden, this lady who drove across Connecticut, which, you're talking about Connecticut, okay? Everybody thinks it's, it's postage stamp. Yeah, it is, okay? But, the drive across Connecticut, okay, it's still, a 90-minute trip. She drove across Connecticut to sit outside our door first thing in the morning. I'm going to say like 20 after 7. She's repossessing I guess because my daughter-in-law canceled the payment. She's outside the door to repossess the flowers. You heard me. She's repossessing the flowers. She's coming to pick them up. I said, I don't even know where they are right now. I said, it's out of my hands. And she says, well, I am not leaving here until I get my flowers back. I said, where are you from? And she told me she was from. I said, you drove an hour and 15, hour and 20. She goes, I'm not giving anybody anything. I go, yeah, but you just spent probably the same amount of money you would have made in gas to come and make your point. And she's like, I don't care. I am not leaving without my flowers. And I says, okay, this is a first. I go, you are here to repossess flowers. I go, if I have not heard everything at this point, I says, I think that's got to take the cake. She goes, I do it every day. I go, you're repossessing flowers? I go, then you must be messing up a lot of orders. I go, so, She goes, I do not. I am number one in the state at doing this. And I said, okay. I go, I really don't care. And I says, but why don't you, I says, you should employ a repo team if you need that many repos. He goes, you're not funny and whatnot. Anyway, so I said, listen, I go, you can sit here all day. I go, I got places to be. So I says, nobody's going to come running out with flowers for you. I says, I don't know what to tell you. I said, I'd head back to where he came from because I really can't help you. And I go, but I'll pray for you. And she was like really all levels of upset. And she went storming out into her car and, never to be seen again. And there was no mention, made of these flowers ever again from anybody. But if you have a flower repo story or any other kind of repo story that you think is like a little unusual or out of the ordinary, I want to hear about it because you don't know what's going to get repoed these days. But anyway, it's on. You can put something on the Facebook group page or just laugh about it to yourself privately, whatever you want to do. Double Pop Worship Zone. We're looking at 21, 22 after the hour. New Mercy Mornings, Tuesday. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings on your Tuesday. It's 11:50, 10 minutes to the noon hour here on the East, 10 minutes to the hour wherever you are, and we are going to wrap it up for this Tuesday and call it a day, but thanks for sitting through some rather lengthy segments today. You're real troopers. If anybody wants to hear any of them again, or if you missed any of them, the audio portion video it's a video, but it's just the audio portion will be on the Facebook group page, or you can hang out and wait till tonight and hear at 8 p.m. and noontime Eastern times on the station, or feel free to just go right on YouTube and binge and catch up on any one of them you missed. And in the meantime, may Jesus leave the light on for you. God bless you, and I wish you peace.